Very well. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Katie Morgan. I lead our climate work here at MIT Solve, and I'm joined by my colleague Eliana, who runs our Innovator Support Program. And we're here today to hopefully answer some questions for you. I'm going to ask Eliana to launch a quick poll so that I can get just a bit of a pulse check about who's here today, why you're here, so that I can gear this presentation to be as helpful as we can. I imagine most of you are applying. Haven't started your application? Great. Okay. All right. So most are planning on applying but haven't started the application yet. Fantastic. I think this should be helpful then. So we'll go through all of the steps here. A piece of good news is we have extended the deadline, so it's now closing. The challenges are closing on next Tuesday, April 23rd at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So you've got a little less than a week to work on these applications. And we'll go through some of the things today that hopefully will help you do that. As I go through, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll also make time. I'll make sure we have plenty of time at the end to answer anything that's on your minds, specific to anything I don't cover or things we need to go back over. So let's go ahead and get started. Perfect. All right, a quick thing just quickly about MIT Solve, who we are, what we do. So MIT Solve is an initiative of MIT out of the President's Office with a mission of really supporting global entrepreneurs all over the world, outside the barriers of campus, thinking, past MIT campus here in Massachusetts, and supporting innovators and entrepreneurs like yourself all over the world, really addressing the global challenges that are presenting themselves more and more. We have supported over 400 innovators throughout the past about 7 years of us working through different challenges and with different partners. We also have 43 fellows as part of our Indigenous Communities Fellowship. Some fun kind of statistics about some of our innovators that we work with is 90% of them are still operational since we selected them, and 62% of our innovators' solutions are women-led and based in the Global South. We have a pretty global reach. This is something that we're not only proud of, but we continue to strive towards. We want to make sure that we are hitting all parts of the world where all kinds of different innovators are and all kinds of different solutions for communities are. So this is a little bit of a snapshot of where some of our innovators are located around the world. A little bit about our timeline for global challenges. The most kind of important part to you, I imagine, is the towards the end here. But just to state that we start thinking about our global challenges early in the fall. So we start thinking about what the challenges will look like, what kind of language we're going to have around them. We launch them out to the public in February. And we will close these challenges, like I said, next week on April 23rd at 12 p.m. From there, we will go through a screening and judging process. We do this internally at Solve, but then also with the expertise, we really lean on a judging panel, our challenge leaders that help us review applications and select the solver teams that we will be working with. We announced the selected solver teams at an event in New York City in September called Solve Challenge Finals. From there, we run a 9-month support program for the selected teams. So this is a really kind of a needs-based support program. We work with you and say, what are the things on your mind? What are the things that you are facing? We think about who in our network we can tap into for that. And then we also think about what kind of workshops we can pull in, what kind of networking opportunities might be relevant. And on top of that, we also work with leadership coaches to get you one-on-one leadership coaching, which for a lot of founders, CEOs, people in kind of executive levels of starting a startup or working on a solution, that can be really helpful in the kind of point of process that you're in. And then we have an accumulation event the next summer in May called Solve at MIT, where we bring you to MIT campus. I'm sure since you are thinking about applying, you might have in your mind which of these global challenges you're thinking about applying to. These are the 5 options that we have as part of our global challenges this year, thinking about economic prosperity, learning, climate, health equity, and Indigenous communities in the US and Canada. We also have a program supporting Black and Brown innovators in the US. If you are interested in participating in this program, there is a box that you check within your application stating that you are interested in participating in it. It is geared towards innovators working in the US. So if you are working outside of the US, this would not apply to you. So you do not need to check that box on your application. This program comes along with specific travel opportunities, culturally responsible coaching, and a group of really amazing innovators that have been in the same program, an alumni program. All right, let's shift a little bit towards, upon selection, what you would receive from Solve. So if you're still in the I'm considering applying stage and kind of trying to see if this is right for me, this might be able to help you determine that. Upon selection, if you are selected as a Solver team, as part of one of these global challenges, you are guaranteed a $10,000 prize, USD, from Solve. On top of that, you are eligible for the prize pool of over $1 million. So we work with prize funders that help support our innovators. And these prize funders typically have an interest area. They have an area that they're really excited about supporting, whether it's AI or blockchain or oceans, thinking about what kind of areas that they're excited about. And they work with us to provide prize funding for innovators in that space. And these prize funders select the innovators that they would like to support. So you will be able to apply to these prizes as being a part of being selected as a solver, and the prize funders will allocate that at their discretion. So it's a great opportunity to be applicable for that kind of over $1 million worth of prize pool. Happy to dive into that more if there are questions around it in a bit. On top of the kind of prize pool that comes along with selection, Solve also has a fund essentially called Solve Innovation Future that we invest in teams that are selected as solvers. So this is an opportunity, once you're selected and on, as you're part of our alumni network, that you would have the ability to work with Solve Innovation Future to think about investment opportunities from them and from other people in their network. We pay for you to come, for one of your delegates to come and join us at 2 of our flagship events, Solve Challenge Finals in New York City and Solve at MIT, which happens on MIT campus. So we pay for your travel and accommodation to be able to join us for that. It's 2 really fun events, and you also at those events get to meet our network. We do our best to make sure that the right people are in the room for you so that you can meet the people that you're excited about meeting and wanting to connect with. So that kind of goes into the next point. We think about connections to potential funders. I imagine many of you have fundraising goals, whether that's your priority goal or one that's maybe less of a priority at the moment for whatever reason. We work with you to think about that. Who are the right funders in our network that we connect you to? And then that 9-month support program that I mentioned. After you're selected, as you kind of enter our alumni class, you still have access to our flagship events. We always invite you to join us at those. You continue to be eligible for some prizes that are open to our portfolio and for the Solve Innovation Future Fund, and still have access to our pro bono resources. And we invite you to a good amount of the workshops still. So that will be a continuous opportunity for you once you are in our alumni network. I've hit on this, but a little bit of in case you're a visual learner, here's a little bit more about the 9-month support program. We really work with you to think about what you can get out of the Solve network. So I always say the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. This is kind of staying in touch with your Solve contacts and making sure that we know what is coming up as important things for you. One thing I haven't mentioned is we also really make sure that you're connecting with your fellow innovators. And so we run cohort calls as part of this support program as well. All right, let's get to maybe the important part for many of you today, some tips and tricks about your application. So working on your application, there's a few sections that are required. So the first two sections within this application are required. So selecting which challenge you're going to apply to is required. You can apply to more than one challenge. So if your solution is really hitting on both, let's say, health and climate, you can apply to both. But if you get to a certain phase on both health and climate, so let's say you make it, I think it's semi-finalist phase, for both of those challenges, we're going to have you select one. So we're going to say, okay, you've gotten to this phase for both health and climate. You need to tell us which one you want to go forward with. So you can do that. I only recommend it if it's like your solution truly fits into both of them. Otherwise, I would stick with the one that makes the most sense. And that's typical. There's, I think, usually one that makes the most sense for you. The second part that is required is giving us a solution overview and a little bit about your team. So these are two things that we do require. The rest of the application is not required, but I highly recommend it. The more that we can learn about you, the more context we have, the more context our judges have, the better we get to know you, the better we can understand what you're working on. So I encourage you, and I know it takes time, but I really do encourage you to fill out them as much as the application you can. I also encourage you, if you have one, even if you don't, if you have time to record one, to include a pitch video. I think it's really valuable to see the person behind the solution, hear from you and how you describe it, your tone of voice. It brings it to life in a lot of ways. It's not a requirement. We know that, not everyone has one, but if you don't, it's pretty simple to record one quickly on Zoom. You can just go ahead and enter a Zoom meeting and record yourself like we would be right now. So encourage you to include a short pitch video. I would say 2 to 3 minutes is like the sweet spot for those. So if you have one of those, I would include it as part of your application. Things to keep in mind is that with the exception of our Indigenous Communities Fellowship, we only accept applications that are at the prototype stage. So anything that's still kind of at the idea stage or the concept stage where you don't have a working prototype, that is not going to be eligible for our global challenges other than the Indigenous Communities Fellowship. So if you're applying for the Indigenous Communities Fellowship and you have a concept level idea or solution, you're more than welcome to apply. But for the other 4 global challenges, for health, economic prosperity, learning, and climate, we do ask that you have a working prototype as part of your solution in order to be eligible. A good tip is that the application does not automatically save. So you should save it along as you go through and fill it out. My suggestion is to copy the questions that are in the application into a Word doc, into a Google Doc, and fill it out in a Google Doc and a Word doc, and then copy it into the application online on Solve's platform. It's just a second level of security in case your computer shuts down, something happens, and you're having, Wi-Fi issues or whatever it might be. I don't want you to lose all of your work. So that's kind of a tip that I would give you. Your session expires after 2 hours, so just hit that save button as much as you can as you're working on your application if you're working on it through the platform. There are character word limits and file limits. So as you go through, just before you start typing a full novel about one of the questions, just make sure that you look and see, okay, it's 500 word count. I need to stick within that. There are also a couple questions within the application that are noted as public or for Solve, for internal use only. Those two things are, so if it's noted as public, these applications do get published on our website. So anything in there will be publicly accessible. The things that are marked internal are for Solve size only, so we will not share those publicly. So that's important if you're thinking about if you have any IP that you're protecting, anything like that, just don't include that in any of your public pieces of your application. Just to make sure that you're protecting yourself. We hope that the public piece of this actually becomes a benefit to you in most ways. So we just want to make sure that you're paying attention to that. And last tip, if you follow my advice about including a pitch video, if you upload it to YouTube, just make sure that that video is publicly viewable and not selected as private so that we can see it. If you're working with other team members on your application, they will need to make a profile within Solve's platform. So if you create your once you create your profile and you have your team member also create their profile, you can add them here on the page and you can decide who is the team lead. That team lead really should be either, the founder, the CEO, the executive director. It should be the person that you anticipate to go through the judging process, to do pitching, to be kind of the representative for your organization. So if you have, for example, maybe an intern or a consultant that's working with you on this application, helping you fill it out, just make sure that whoever is noted as the team lead is the right person for us to contact. So that's who we will reach out to with any emails, with any communications, and who we will lean on throughout the process. Once you're ready to submit your application, you'll see that at the bottom. You can go ahead and submit your solution. The good news is that your solution is editable through the deadline. So until April 23rd at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, you will be able to edit your submitted solution. So let's say you get through it and Friday night, you hit that submit button, you're like, yes, I'm good, I'm done. You wake up on Monday morning like, oh crap, I forgot to include this piece. Don't stress, you can still add it until Tuesday at noon. We will totally let you edit it until then. After the deadline, we will not accept any edits or any additions to your application. So just keep that in mind. Once you hit submit, the other thing just to make sure you know is that it does become publicly viewable after submitting. This can be good. You can send it around to your team, make sure that they can see it, they could like it if they're not added as, they don't have a portfolio on the platform. You can send it to them to make sure you didn't miss anything or anything like that, but also make sure that it's in a spot that you feel comfortable with it being publicly viewable. Although I wouldn't stress too much about it. I don't think people are sifting through these applications too much until the application deadline is closed. All right, a few frequently asked questions, and I promise we will also get to the questions on your mind. But some things that come up for us quite a bit is how do we define technology? And we define technology very broadly here at MIT Solve. We know that technology means different things in different fields in different parts of the world. So we really think about, solutions that are anywhere from, apps and SMS technology to AI and robots and drones, but also welcoming solutions that leverage ancestral and natural technologies and different knowledge systems. So thinking about maybe different ways of applying an existing technology or different ways of applying a technique that's been around for a long time. I mentioned this before, but you can apply to multiple global challenges if you feel like you're a good fit for multiple, but we will have you select one of those eventually. So just keep that in mind. Maybe have the one that you would consider your priority if you get to that point. And the time commitment once you're selected. Aside from maybe some travel to our different events and having a few days with us in person at both of those events, the Solver program is about 25 hours. But like I said before, you're going to get as much out of it as you give. And so there'll be opportunities for you to participate in more things. There's, opportunities for you to participate in less if that's, you're really busy or you've got things going on. We don't have strict requirements on some things, we do on others, but we really try to make this program as worth it for you as we possibly can. We want it to be additive, not stressful or something that's, taking your time up. Quickly, some criteria that we consider, and when we go and start to look at these applications, the things that we consider. These are the areas that we consider. So we look at alignment. So how does your solution address one of these global challenges? So when you're thinking about which one to apply to, we really do look at, is this aligned with the challenge that you've applied to? We think about the potential for impact. So how are you thinking about impact, whether that's, in your community, or how your solution's thinking about scale. We think about feasibility. So when you're thinking about, do you have a plan to implement this solution, this prototype? Do you have a path forward in mind? Is it an innovative approach? Do you think about inclusive centered design? And then once we get to kind of the finalist selection piece, so this is not considered in the initial part of our application review, we start to think about scalability, so your potential for scale, even if that is within a community setting, not within multiple countries, or thinking about scale and what that means for your innovation. Thinking about partnership potential, how you might be able to take advantage of MIT Solves resources and who's in our network. And then also about technical feasibility, making sure that what you're applying with will perform as you claim it will. I think I've mentioned my tips here. I encourage you to go through all of the pieces of the application. We also have a lot of different kind of examples on our website to take a look at. Because the Become a Solver page, there's a lot of different frequently asked questions, and those criteria that we just went over are included there. A few things that are resources for you are, if you're considering applying, but you're not 100% sure if you're eligible. So let's say that you're like, I have a concept, not a prototype, and you kind of just want to gut check if you should spend time on an application. We do have an eligibility quiz, so that is something Eliana can link in the chat here. And we'll be able to kind of give you a sense if you should apply or not. We also have an MIT X course that talks about kind of business and impact planning for social enterprises. Not a requirement that you complete this, but it can be helpful. All right, some final reminders. So keep in mind, once you hit that submit button, the application does become public. So you want to make sure that you are feeling good about it once you hit submit. Something that's come up more and more, obviously, in the last couple years is ChatGPT. This can be an incredibly useful tool if you're unclear about what a question's asking, if what it's getting at, about what a term means. It can be a useful tool. I would strongly recommend that you don't use it to fill out your application, because we can tell. We look at a lot of applications and we can tell which ones are written by ChatGPT. That doesn't disqualify you. It just makes your application sound the same as a lot of others, any of the others that use ChatGPT. So if you do use it, just make sure you reword any of the sentences that come out, making sure that you include your own tone of voice. We really want to hear from you. We want to hear your ideas and what your motivation is. So feel free to use it as a tool, but I would discourage you from just copying and pasting from ChatGPT. Also, don't wait till the last minute to submit your application. Things happen, tech happens, computers crash. So if you're, gearing up to go ahead and hit that submit button, like I said, you can still go back and edit it. So hit that submit button like Friday, and then you can have the weekend to look over and edit things, just to make sure that come Tuesday morning, you're not stressed, we're not stressed. There's only so much we can do at the last minute, because you can only imagine the amount of emails we get at the last minute with technical problems that we can't solve. So do yourself a favor and hit that submit button earlier than the deadline. Alrighty, that's my spiel. I'm going to open it up to everyone for questions. One thing is, if you do have issues or questions after today, that email address that's included on this page here, help@solve.mit.edu, is the best place to go. So they'll be able to help you with any of your things that come up during your application process. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing so I can see you and see the chat. Perfect. If you have a question, feel free to either drop it in the chat. I'm also happy to have you raise your hand or unmute if there's things that come up.
Katie, we have a question that hasn't been answered from Mali. It says that they are hi everyone, by the way. I'm Eliana, nice to see you. It says that they are a non-profit foundation based in a country with allies from other countries or community initiatives. So their question is, can they apply and mention the two allies or add them to the organization? And has the CEO has to be the CEO of the foundation? I believe I just sent you the full question in the chat. I believe you had solutions in the past that have been okay.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So we have had groups that have had, collective organizations together submit an application. That's totally fine by me, fine by us. Happy to have different allies or collectives submit one together. I would say that you're going to want to come up with a collective either solution name together or pick maybe the team lead. You're going to want to pick one of the organizations that's going to take the lead in terms of being our point of contact and representing at events. So whoever might be able to be the best communicator between the initiatives would be beneficial to have them be that team lead. You can mention in your application you're, a collective working between, 4 different organizations or 2 different organizations. So that's really something that is absolutely fine to include in your application and include in the portfolio or the profiles that you're adding on the platform as well. And the CEO of the solution doesn't need to be formally, it should be still like, someone that's maybe a CEO or founder or executive director or kind of manager level of one of the initiatives that's applying. I hope that helps. Molly, let me know if it doesn't. I'm sorry, let me just scroll through here. All right, I've got a question about building a comprehensive app, and you've successfully done your piloting, but now you're looking to add AI to the app. I would say you have a successful pilot prototype, and you're looking to continue to improve that prototype. That is, I would count that as you're kind of in that prototype piloting stage still, but I would apply towards that. Have the app be what you're applying with and that you have plans to add AI into it. I think that's a great way to kind of frame it. If you are admitted to the 2024 cohort, you will have access to us, to the program. I would say forever. I mean, so far we've done this for 7 years. So we still have folks from 7 years ago that are really in close touch with us. We still put them up for different events. Our innovation, our fund has invested in them. We have folks that still attend workshops and take advantage of our network, so that it doesn't go away. We have no plans for it to go away. We want to stay in touch with people that we work with. I would say we really try to stay in touch with you like 5 years after you've been a solver. So we really try to make sure to get updates about what you're doing within that 5 years post program. but we always want to stay in touch with you. So there's no limit to that. Typical size of organizations that are selected through this program, this is not a criteria. So we do not look at, if let's say your organization has 10 people as part of it, this is something not that we look at from a judging standpoint. So we don't say, okay, you only have 2 team members, we won't select you. We don't have any kind of minimum or maximum amount of team members that you can have. Should the selection of a business model and funding be completed considering the organization as a whole or the project we are applying for? It will be considered as the project you are applying for. So we are selecting the project or solution that you are applying with. If it's part of a bigger part of an organization, that will be, part of your application. I'm sure it will come up, but we will be really selecting with the solution that you submit. Adam, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I have questions. So my question is, please, can you send me the full program through my email so that I want to assuming all that program? Because, I just log in so that I can, you already pass everything. You understand what I
Yes,
mean?
I do.
So
We
that's
will post the recording of this on our website. So it is there for you to watch, and you will be able to go through and view it. We also have all the other recordings of these kind of sessions that we've had on our website. So if you missed part of it, you joined a little bit late, no worries. This will be available to you on our website.
okay. This is my first time I was log in 2024. So that's why I want to know more about MITs.
Perfect. Yes, it will be available to you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Ma.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, I've got a question about a limit in the number of files you can attach in a question. Eliana, do you know the answer to this? I'm trying to think if there's I don't know if I know the full limit. I know there is a limit.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
If there's a limit to the number of files you can attach in a question.
I think in terms of adding URLs or hyperlinking things, you should, I don't think there's a limit, but my personal recommendation and what we like to see when we review applications is that you have answered the challenge question, the application question within the word limit. We always see that some applicants refer external sources or when they're citing data or other resources. But if it is really important, our recommendation is to put it in the written answer.
Yeah, and same with you can attach, I think you can include some pictures, or you can put a link to a picture within your application as well. I would do that, don't do too many of them. You want it to make sure it's still easy to read your application and scroll through it nicely. So if there's an opportunity for you to include that as part of your pitch video that you submit, that's a good opportunity to also showcase a prototype that you have. All right. So Molly, if you have 2 collaborators, it's not necessary that everyone's part of the application. I think as long as you're able to express that you're working as part of with other people, that's fantastic. We want to hear that. We want to hear what you're developing and who you're collaborating with, but not everyone needs to be part of your application. And in terms of business model needing to be functional or already operating, this kind of depends on the solution. I would say we ask you to have a working prototype. That looks different depending on different business model types. That looks different depending on honestly kind of the area of interest. So, you know, it might be different for something in climate than it would be for something in learning. So we don't necessarily judge on business model functionality. We do kind of take into consideration that you have a business model plan. You have a plan to implement this prototype. As I'm scrolling through the chat, does anyone have any questions you want to ask verbally? Doing my best to keep up going on in the chat over here. Okay, I will keep scrolling. What if the solution is still in development phase and has not been fully tested for the prototype stage? Can we still apply, or should we wait till the next challenge window? I will say that's up to you. But we really look for folks that have that prototype stage ready to go. It is something that we require as part of the eligibility to apply to the global challenges, with the exception of the fellowship, the Indigenous Communities Fellowship. And Eliana is linked here. Thank you, Eliana. And it kind of a definition of what we consider a prototype. So I'll leave that up to you. But if you feel like you're not quite at the stage yet, you might want to wait till next year to apply. It will continue to be there for you. We will definitely be running this next year, so the opportunity will be there. Good question. Can your organization submit 2 solutions to the Global Health Challenge as well as 1 solution to the Education Challenge? No, you can only submit 1 application per challenge area. So you could only submit 1 to Global Health and 1 to Learning. You can't submit multiple to Health all at the same time.
I think I said another question regarding this in the chat or in the Q&A section before. Besides the possibility, you know, submitting more than 1 solutions, like maybe you are part of more than 1 organization, our recommendation is to, you know, choose a solution, choose a project or something that you're working on that aligns really well with one of the open challenges, and, you know, spend your time there, work the application, make sure it's good, make sure is well read and something that you're really excited about and you think that we will be excited to read as well. So that's my best recommendation. Choose one and go all in for it.
Thank you, Eliana. Yes. All right, I think those are the questions I see in the chat. If I missed yours, maybe just copy and paste it again. I'm just kind of scrolling through here, and if there's things that you have on your mind, feel free to unmute yourself. Happy to recap something that was unclear as well, if you just have a question about something that we've already gone over, but maybe I need to rephrase or expand upon.
I see some questions unanswered in the Q&A section that some folks have chose to put their questions there.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've answered a lot of these in the chat. Let me see. If you're aiming to scale a pilot in the team section, should we put our projected team for the next year or 3 years or our current team? I would put your current team within that. You can explain that, you know, within there's a kind of a section within the application for you to explain about your future plans, your future goals. So that would be a place that, you know, you can think about who the future of your team would be, but I would include your current team as part of your application and who you're listing on the application. Mally's asking again, or can the CEO of the solution be a managerial person of the ally? Mally, I'm gonna say I'm gonna trust you to know who the best team representative would be for you. We don't have, what we suggest is that it's someone with a leadership position or a founder, CEO of the organization applying to the challenge. This person should be able to speak to your solution, should be able to pitch your solution, should be able to talk about what's going on. If you're talking to a funder or you're on stage, this will be the main point of contact for us to connect to. So you want to make sure that that person is the right person. We trust that you know who that person is. That typically, I say typically because organizations come in a lot of different forms, that typically is the founder, CEO, executive director person. But if your organization is set up differently, it might be someone else. And if you, for now, I would submit the person that you feel like we should go back and forth with on an application. If you decide to change that team lead, if you're selected as a solver, we will work with you at that point to help you decide who the best person is to be the team lead. There's a question about how gender diversity is impacting the selection, or does priority go to talent diversity? We are looking for exceptional solutions from all over the world. We do consider diversity in our cohorts that we select. We want to make sure we have great representation from different parts of the world, that we have a variety of different kinds of solutions that are entering, are being selected as solvers. But we are very conscious to make sure that we're considering diversity in many different lenses. So that is something that we take into consideration as part of selection, but we really think about the exceptional solutions at the forefront of what's being considered as part of this application process. And a lot of times diversity shines through within those exceptional solutions very naturally. So that makes our job very easy. All right, going back over to the chat now. So you can include pictures within your application. There's not a way to upload them. I believe you need to copy them into the text of what you're responding to within the text box. This is not something that we don't provide, areas to include photos necessarily as part of the application process. I think the most effective way for you to show off pieces of your application or pieces of your prototype or where you're working or what you're doing is through that pitch video. So that would be my suggestion, and the best way to include either photos or videos about what you're working on. Angie, we will have information about whether your solution's been moved on to the next stage in June, Eliana, right? I think so. Applications moved on to the next stage when they'll know.
I believe it's June/July at the latest.
Yeah.
And that will be the time of the year in which we'll notify the solutions that have advanced to the final stages, and they will be invited to do a live pitch for the judges, from which live pitch the solutions for the 2022 global challenges will be chosen. I'm sorry, I mean, I'm trying to answer all the questions in the chat.
I know.
Thank you. Thank you also, everyone, for your patience as we sort through the questions. If anyone wants to ask verbally, feel free to raise your hand, and Katie will call on your name.
All right, we got a question. In the event where one feels they need all the help from Solve, will it affect the application negatively to tick all the boxes? Nope. Tick all the boxes. Let us know what help you need. It does not negatively affect your application whatsoever. It allows us to see that you'll be able to take advantage of the Solve network. But also tick the ones that make sense, right? Like, don't just tick them all to tick them all. Make sure you're selecting the ones that really are the priority areas for you and for your solution. Great question, Cynthia. So we will select about 6 solvers per challenge. So there'll be around 6 climate solvers selected. So it will be a total of about 30 total solvers selected. Alrighty. Yes, just to reiterate, the deadline has been moved, so it is now April 23rd at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So put that on your calendar, go towards that now. Adam, did you have a question?
No, I don't have any questions.
No worries, I just saw that you had unmuted, so I just wanted to check. If you make it to the finals and the team lead can't make it to the event or can't make it to the pitch, can you have someone else fill in for them? Yes, we work with you on that. We love it for it to be the team lead. We try to give you as much notice, but we know life happens. We know things, how you have plans, there's things going on. So we will work with you to make sure that you're prepared in the right, you have someone to represent your solution on the pitch day or during the event. So don't let that be a point of stress. We will make sure we work with you on that.
And about Morugi's question in the chat, would it be okay to put 2 teams on the team question? We have a whole team section in the application. So there you have like, I think 3 or 4 questions in which you can tell us all about the teams that are working in the solution. If it is multiple organizations, if it is people from a specific team within a larger organization. And I believe that there's also a question about like, oh, but why do you think that this team is especially like well placed to deliver this solution and create this positive impact that our solution intends or it's having at this time? So please feel free to share all the details of the relevant teams in that section. And I think that's all the questions we had.
That's all I see, but there's also more time. So if there's things that come up, let us know. We're here. But also if you need to continue with your Wednesday, feel free to drop off. Eliana and I will stick around for a little bit longer if there's other questions that come up. Thank you all for your interest in applying to MIT Solves Global Challenges. We're really, really excited to read all of these applications. There's a lot of different things that go into launching and going through these challenge process. So when Eliana and I get to start reviewing applications, it's just really an amazing part of our job. So thank you so much for all of the work that you are doing and the solutions that you are working on around the world. We're really excited to be able to read about them and be able to celebrate them and the work that you do.
Remember, submit before the deadline in case you run into any trouble. Save as you move forward with the application. And if you have any questions in the next couple of days, you can always reach out to the email that just dropped in the chat, help@solve.mit.edu. And I also dropped the link to the webpage where the recording from this session is going to be uploaded probably this afternoon. So thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to stop the recording and Katie and I can hang here for a little bit in case anyone has any remaining questions. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.